So we are still on the Andrew Jackson train. Democracy and the Common Man is what this lesson is called. So in the last part of the lesson, we talked about the election of this lesson is we talked about the election of 1824. In this part, we are going to talk about the election of 1828. So, back-to-back elections. So, I want you guys to remember that Andrew Jackson was kind of butthurt that he lost the election because of the corrupt bargain of 1824, like his supporters called it. So remember that. As Andrew Jackson's supporters worked to put him first in line for the 1828 election, the public began to learn more about him. Labeled Old Hickory by supporters who drew parallels between the war hero and a sturdy hickory tree, Jackson represented the New West as a land of hardiness and stamina. A plantation and slave owner, Jackson's political beliefs were not easily labeled as either Federalist or Anti-Federalist. So he did not have this sort of political party ideology that was common for people back in those days. Although Jackson did support states' rights and initiatives, and did not believe in a supreme central government. So he believed in states' rights. Believed in state rights. And he did not want to see no strong central government. So believed in states' rights and did not support a strong national government. This was a bone of contention between Jackson and Henry Clay, whose influence resulted in Jackson losing the 1824 presidential election. Jackson also strongly believed that government should be run by the people, with individuals accepting limited terms in office and then returning to the private sector to avoid the corruption that tended to follow career politicians. During the early 19th century, a wave of suffrage efforts was sweeping the nation to guarantee voting rights for all white men, regardless of property ownership or taxes paid. Between 1812 and 1821, 6 new Western states granted universal white manhood suffrage. During the same period, 4 Eastern states significantly reduced land ownership voting requirements for white males. As these efforts gained momentum and the constituency grew to include less wealthy voters, more emphasis was placed on the common man. So here's the idea behind the common man. Politicians, including Jackson, had to rethink their campaign strategy to maximize their appeal. Jackson had already earned respect as a war hero, and with his strategy to identify himself as a common man, just like the people he would represent, he was able to garner the necessary votes to beat Adams and earn the presidency in 1828. As in the election of 1824, Jackson again beat Adams in the popular vote, but this time he gained 178 electoral votes to Adams' 83. He accepted his office, the first president from the West, clothed in black in honor of this his recently deceased wife Rachel. So this idea behind a common man really sparked in the feelings and the attributes to politicians to advertise to this common man. As Jackson's office, as Jackson took office, his theory of limiting staffers' terms stirred both positive and negative emotions. His predecessor, John Quincy Adams, had resisted replacing the previous administration's staff with his own as long as the staffers remained productive. However, this caused Adams to lose support of those who expected a political post in exchange for their efforts. Conversely, Jackson believed in appointing his own staff comprised of his supporters, which also allowed him to eliminate the Adams and Clay supporters from his administration. This system of political backscratching became known as the spoils system, giving government jobs to your supporters. The spoils system had several negative consequences. Often the individuals who were appointed were unskilled at best and incapable at worst of fulfilling the responsibilities of their post. Furthermore, the spoils system could be abused. Occasionally, corrupt individuals were placed in offices that they ultimately abused, stealing millions of dollars from the government. This system also created scandals as politically motivated supporters of one candidate worked hard to uncover, or in some cases, fabricate offensive stories about the opposition. Although Jackson did not employ the spoils system on the grand scale as some who followed him as chief executive, he certainly had a hand in developing its practice. This is why we have a version of the spoiled system even today. So with that being said, in the last part of this lesson, we are going to talk about the new political parties. See you guys next time.